When I first heard of the concept, I was pretty, I thought it was ridiculous, the whole idea of leading animals to a slaughterhouse.
There's not many other tower defense games that take place on a farm. Almost all of them take place in a war-torn area. Even if they are kind of cartoony, it's a battlefield, right?
But in Fat Chicken, it's kind of different because you actually want the creeps to get to the end. But what you're actually doing to them is managing like a series of variables attached to them.
Not kill the things that are the creeps, but actually get them and ferry them through and feed them just enough, water them just enough, and then shoot them full of growth hormones and food and genetically modify them before they go in so they have the most meat on them.
From pens to slaughterhouse and try to get them as fat as possible so you can get the most bang for your buck.
I wanted things to be recognizable, obviously, but have sort of a quirkiness or a charm to it, either by, having colors that really pop and kind of draw your attention to them, or taking something everyday like a tree and, I tried to give like a cubic aspect to some of the organic things in the game. You'll see that especially in the animals and the vegetation, but also the characters to some degree as well.
This is a really different game. There's not really much that plays like it. The ideas are very different, so you have to really make sure the player understands what they're doing. So I put a lot of work in refining the systems that were in place to make them more intuitive.
Any interface artist will tell you that at the end of the day, their best work will go unnoticed, because UI should just be sort of a seamless thing that the player, if it's done well, the player doesn't even notice that it's there. It's just kind of it becomes second nature for them. But I do hope that it's fun enough that they look at it and go, oh, that's cool, I want to build that.
And this is my first true indie title in the sense of working with local guys who all have common interests, and we're kind of looking out for the game itself. The bottom line is making the best game possible. And I feel like, at least in my experience, on the indie scene, music especially can kind of get overlooked a little bit. There's a lot of licensed tracks, and it's understandably a cost issue. But for me, it's more about having fun and making a great game. So I really treated this game the same way I would any AAA title I was working on. So it was all about the best quality possible, getting the music that matches up the game and really supports the gameplay as you're going. I think the total soundtrack's probably close to about 60 minutes.
Just tried to make something that looked inviting, but would also allow me to kind of have these sinister elements in them. Some things you'll see, like in the pens for the animals, they have elements of like a concentration camp in how the animals are held within them. And but at the same time, the colors kind of like, they're bright, they're shiny, but it's corrugated metal, so you kind of get this dichotomy between gloom and doom and bright and sunny.
Like, I've done effects for all of our games so far, but I've never had to focus on a cartoony, that side of the style, the stylized part or whatever. I've always done realistic looking things or sci-fi effects, but having to do cartoony was really fun. Specific effect, the fat bomb, was my favorite. That was a lot of fun. You had to do just like a mushroom cloud, fat gaseous looking, like corn popping out, and that was definitely my favorite effect.
My favorite thing in the game is just trying to make the most ridiculously big genetically modified animal that you can, because you can mutate them too, and then they grow like extra heads and stuff, and that's pretty amazing, especially if you get them huge.
People accustomed to more traditional tower defense games give it a chance, because it does have a lot of those same elements, but it incorporates the strategy in a much different way. And to people like me who really don't like tower defense games, I think it's worth checking out, just because it isn't exactly like all the other tower defense games. It's a lot more about management than attrition, and I think that's a little bit more interesting from a gameplay standpoint.
The whole game is really, really weird. It's quite a far-fetched idea to begin with, but the way we executed it just takes it even further.
Mighty Rabbit Studios. I mean, these guys are amazingly passionate. They love games. Some of them, I'm just amazed at how much they can do and how much they know and how talented they are after just getting into the game industry, 3 or 4 years ago. genetically modifies creatures by, I guess, adding on, I want to say meat nodules, because I really don't know what else to say.